Folks, I'm Stephen Campbell, use my name and I got this talent. Keep that round of applause going, and welcome to the stage, your next act, Daniel Houston! And my what's happening? Give it up for Soupy one more time. Yeah, if you don't know who I am, my name's Daniel, I'm 20, I'm just recently out of school, not too long, you know. Who in here enjoyed their school days? Yeah. No one sound, that's good, neither did I. My school was pretty mental, you know, like the toilets in my school, they were always getting wrecked. Like I walked into the toilets in my school one day and someone had taken a sink off the wall, right? Like imagine being so melted out in double mass, you're like, oh my, I need to go take a sink off the wall here. But it got so bad in my school that the principal actually installed this rule that, right, listen, if you're going to the toilet, you've got to take a key with you. And I thought that was a wee bit weird. Like imagine me sitting in geography being like, miss, can I go to the toilet please? And she's like, yeah, but you've got to take a key with you. Sweet. Oh, love geography. But no, I've never taken a drug in my life, you know, look at me, you know, but one time, this is how you know I don't take any drugs, one time me and my mates went to Tesco for a house party, and one of them, we were at the till, and one of them went, here, should we get a bag? And I was like, no, they're stroking 25p now. Don't worry about it. But yeah, I'm going to be personal with you, Limelight. You know, I was bullied a bit growing up in school, and it was pretty hard, and one day these three guys that jumped me in school, they were bullying me, they pushed me over, and I did what any 12-year-old being bullied at that age would do, and these guys were jumping me. I went, Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice. Which like is obviously mental. More mental, he appeared, right? Just standing in front of me, and he looked at me, and he looked back at the bullies. I thought, I'm saved. Beetle just kicked my head in, right? Kicked my head in. But I'll tell you a bit about my family. My granda, I've got my granda a Fitbit recently for Christmas. Who in here used a Fitbit? Yeah, you can tell. Yeah. Now I got my granda a Fitbit for Christmas, and on the first day he used it, he did 5,000 steps in the Fitbit, class for a guy his age, he's in his 80s. Second day, 10,000 steps in the Fitbit, we couldn't believe it, overjoyed. Third day, 15,000 steps on the Fitbit. Can I get a hand for my granda, isn't that class? Yeah. We were buzzing, we were going to sign him up to the Olympics, everything, we were so happy. Fourth day, he was diagnosed with Parkinson's. And I realised where all the steps were coming from. Instead of Usain Bolt, I was calling him Usain Jolt. But like, it's, you know, it's not all bad. Now if I'm going to the gym, I'll just get to put the powder in the cup and he'll shake it up for me, you know, just for the rest. And like, he hates when I tell that joke on stage. I say, here, shake it off, like, do you know what I mean? You know. Tell you a bit more about my family. Me and my brother have always wanted a dog. And for years and years and years, always asked Mum and Dad, can we please get a dog? Can we please get a dog? And they said, right, finally, you can get a dog, but on one condition. You both have to agree on the name for the dog. The issue is I wanted to name the dog Alex, my brother wanted to name it Ben, and me being a responsible, mature, older brother than I am, I thought this is what we'll do, we'll come to a compromise at both names, then it's fine, we'll mash it up. I realised that was a bad idea the next day when I was taking the dog for a walk in Botanic and I got off the lead and I was left shouting, bollocks! Bollocks! Made even worse by the fact that we'd no photos of the dog or anything, which meant the next day I had to put missing dog posters with only photos of my face on it up with the phrase, have you seen my bollocks? Nightmare, you know. But I work in the cinema as well, and you know, it's not too bad of a job, it's okay. You know, I was in the cinema recently doing what I do, scanning people's tickets, making sure they get into the right screens and stuff like that. And this couple came towards me, these 5 women. They came up towards me and they said, excuse me, our friend's gonna be a wee bit late, is that okay? I said, absolutely no bother at all, just take a wee photo or something. I said, can we take a wee photo? I said, yes, that's no bother at all. This woman, no joke, true story, takes her phone out, takes a photo of my own face. Me standing there like I just found out I'm gonna be a dad. Walks on. 5 minutes later, this girl walks up to me and says, I've got my wee ticket here actually. Takes her phone out, shows me a photo of my own face. I was like, yeah, screen 4, no worries. But I actually stopped her when she was going. I said, sorry, I'm not actually that comfortable with that. And then she showed me the photo and I was like, actually make like a raw screen, I look great in that, yeah. But the weirdest part was, as she was walking away, she said the phrase, "Works every time." And I didn't understand what that meant. A few weeks later, I was at McDonald's. I walked in and there was a smick using one of the self-service screens in McDonald's, you know. And I walked in and he was tapping his card and it wasn't working. And I said, "You alright, mate?" He goes, "Not working." And I went, "Let's see your record, mate." "Yeah, it's a bus pass, mate. That's not going to work." He said, "No bother, I'll try the phone instead here." I was like, "Sweet, no worries." A few seconds later, I heard a wee ding. That's a great sound, by the way, for me. I said, "You get it working okay, mate?" He went, "Yeah, mate." Turns his phone around, photo of my face on it. "Works every time, la." You know? But yeah, you know, working in the cinema has its challenges as well. You know, cleaning the screens, I found all sorts. You know, teeth, bras, diapers. And like, that's just stuff I hold on to. There's so much I just chuck out, like, you know what I mean? This one time I found something mental walking in the cinema. I went into one of the screens, checking one of the screens, making sure everything was okay. And in the front row, there was two people having sex, right? In the front row. Now, don't get me wrong, it's weird to have sex in the cinema. Weirder to do it during Wonka, okay? And like, these guys were leaving nothing up to pure imagination. I could see everything, like. And don't get me wrong, I didn't want to stop this guy when he was getting his Augustus Gloop, but at the same time, I have a duty of care here to not make sure an Oompa Loompa is being conceived in the cinema. And I went over to him and I said, "Excuse me, sir, you know, you don't have to go home, but you can't do that here." And he dismounted from his woman, and I was left staring at his Willy Wonka. Stinking, you know. But I got a girlfriend now? Yeah. Why? Yeah. Got a girlfriend now, and things are going well. You know, I got her hamster for her birthday, you know, full shebang, cage, hamster, you know, hamster ball, wee water bottle, stuff like that. You know, being a good boyfriend. I'm still getting to try and know her family as well. You know, her brother came out to me the other day and was like, "Can we play football?" And I was like, "Yes." He's 37, but don't worry about it. "Yes, man, no worries." She crossed it over to me like prime Ronaldo, boom, back of the net, unbelievable. My girlfriend came out a few minutes later. "Has anyone seen Jean-Claude Van Damme anywhere?" The hamster's called Jean-Claude Van Damme, by the way. And I realised I had kicked my girlfriend's hamster in the back of the net. It's a big plastic ball. And I said to her, like, "I am so sorry that you didn't see the way I controlled that hamster and stuck it in there, you know." But yeah. Anybody here giving any blood recently? You're all cool, you know? Yeah, very cool, yeah. I gave blood recently, it was alright. I ask you all these questions when you go in, it's really weird. I went in to give blood and they were like, "So Daniel, what's your type?" And I was like, "My sexual preference has nothing to do with this, but also Latinas." My girlfriend's here. Yeah, no, she's not. Cheers. I'm the dog guys after this. But yeah, you know, I was getting my blood done. They asked you all these questions, and I was saying, "No, I don't really appreciate all these questions." They said, "No, Daniel, like, be positive." And I was like, "I'm trying to be, but you're doing my head in with all these questions." But eventually I went in, and they put a wee thing on my arm, and I was like, it was a wee nip off that actually. And she was like, "Daniel, that was cotton wool." I was like, "Right, fair enough. But yeah, I took blood, and it was fine, no big deal. And as I was leaving, I said, "I can't go to the toilet." She said, "Just be careful, because you might feel a wee bit faint. You might faint in the toilet." I said, "Be fine, don't worry." I went to the toilet, dropped my trousers, and I was standing there, started to feel a wee bit faint, you know, I was losing control. I knew what I was having for dinner that night. Fish fingers, nightmare. Apologies, that's crude. Trousers at my ankles, I was like, "I need to get out of this toilet, I'm going to collapse here." I tried to put my trousers up, I didn't even have the strength to pull my trousers up. I opened the door, me walking down the hospital like something of The Walking Dead, trying to get to reception. And eventually, thankfully, I made it to reception. And I collapsed at reception with my trousers down. I thought, "It's a nightmare." And someone came over to me, I thought, "Thank goodness I'm saved." And he came over to me with a missing dog poster that said, "Have you seen my ballots?" Found him, mate. But yeah, I'll leave you guys with this. As well as working in the cinema, I enjoy a wee solo activity out in the cinema, you know, going by myself, I love that. Went to the cinema recently just after the dentist though, nightmare, awful toothache. Went into the cinema, it was just me and these two other guys, we were in the same row. And I used to eat my popcorn, but because I had this toothache, I was making a wee noise. I'd eat a piece of popcorn and go, Another piece of popcorn, got a piece of popcorn. And then these two guys start talking during the film. And I thought that was really poor form, because, you know, cinematic, it's gone out the window, you know. People just talking about the whole film. And then at the end of the film, the lights came up, and these two guys started walking towards me. And as they were walking past me, the lights on, they looked at me and went, "No, he definitely does." And I realised they weren't talking throughout the film. They were trying to figure out whether I had special needs or not. And the worst part about it, Limelight, is when the lights came on, they looked at me and went, "No, he definitely does." Guys, you guys have been fantastic. Thank you so much. We're going to take a quick break. We'll see you back soon. Cheers.